Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live, and the show, along with the rest of South Africa, are remembering this important day, June 16th. We are celebrating those brave young class of 1976 that stood up for what they believe in. And is it a day that we celebrate? Is it a day that we mourn? Is it a day that we just sit and remember and reflect? These are some important things that we hope that young people are actually getting into discussion about and having some dialogue about. Let's check in with Leanne. She's in Freedom Park in Pretoria and find out who her next guest is. Leanne, is it a day that we celebrate, or is it a day that we just use to reflect?
Valen, I think it possibly is a bit of both, but I think the commemorate really does overshadow sometimes the celebrations because of the lives that were lost in 1976. It really was a stand that they took against the apartheid system that they were completely against. So, you know, when I say it's a little bit of both, I think one could understand that. As much as you celebrate what they stood up for, you celebrate for the fact that they achieved so much during that time. You celebrate for the fact that they were strong enough to realize that what was going on in their lives was wrong and that they knew that there was a better life waiting for them. But at the same time, you commemorate those lives that were lost. And you look at the photographs that are being posted all over social media that are being brought up once again today for all of us to remember what happened on that day exactly 39 years ago. Now, when we look forward to today, we mark National Youth Day with the theme, The Revolution Continues. So we talk about this revolution and we ask the question, what is it that this generation faces? And, you know, it faces a lot. There's a lot of trouble that this generation is going through when it comes to the youth. We've mentioned them over and over again, and I don't think we can mention them enough, whether it is unemployment, whether it's the scourge of drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's a lack of parenting, so many child-headed households. There is just so much. So let's talk about what we are doing for the youth of 2015. And joining me now at Freedom Park, I've got the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Buti Manamela. It's good to have you. Welcome to a very, very chilly morning, but you're lucky you got your shoes back on. Because
I got my shoes back on, and good morning, Leanne, and also to viewers at home. It's chilly.
It is. It's very chilly. But I suppose why I need to explain why you took your shoes off. There's an interfaith prayer service that I'm not sure, I think it might have just ended. You were a part of it in the sacred area. You have to take your shoes off. Talk to me about the significance of this.
Look, I mean, we were in a place called Isivivane, and as I'm told, it's a place where it's an integration of all cultures, of all religion, but the most important thing about it is unity. It's getting together, so we had the different interfaith groups praying, but we also had, everyone who was here holding hands as a sign of unity around the 11 boulders, which represent all the provinces, and also one which represent the national and one which represent international. I think the most important thing is that it is young people who are opening with prayers June 16, 1976. I mean, 39 years ago it was a different story. But today, as a sign of gratitude, as a sign of, thanksgiving of some of sorts, we say to them, we thank you, but, most of the interfaith groups were saying, we're also marching forward. It's a time for reflection and a time to look into the future, to celebrate and, to plan, to ensure that the future looks brighter for all the youth of our country. So essentially that's why this was important.
Is the future brighter for the youth coming up now? I mean, because when we talk about the youth, and I'm not taking away from those exceptional youngsters that are out there, because wow, I mean, I look at my generation and I don't think we had such shining stars when I was young as we do now, because there are some unbelievable individuals out there, and I never ever want us to stop emphasizing them. However, the problems facing the youth are so massive, it sometimes is difficult to see that shining light. So, what are we doing for them? How are we helping them get over the problems?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think, yes, there are challenges. I mean, the 1 in 3 young people are unemployed. We have young people who, give themselves into drugs, alcohol. We've got young people who, are infected or affected by HIV/AIDS. We've got a variety of challenges and problems that young people are confronted with. But I would want to regard this year, 2015, as the year of youth. I mean, it is the year where, in the first half, we interacted with thousands of young people who said to us, we think this is where we need to go, through the National Youth Policy process. But also young people who said, we are not necessarily angry as people suggest that we are in the whole. Albeit all of these problems. There are more young people today who are going to school. There are more young people today who have got access to opportunities in universities. There are more young people today who, choose to contribute in a much more constructive way, to a better South Africa. And I think that yes, we need to celebrate those, as you say, but I think that in the same vein and in the same voice, we also need to remember that South Africa belongs to all of us, and a better South Africa should be about, those who are faced with a variety of challenges. So I think, the balance of the last 21 years and also the balance of the last 39 years, as this is the 39th anniversary of June 16, that balance tells us that there is actually, a positive generation of young people who are looking forward towards a better South Africa, much better than that confronted by your generation, by their parents and their parents' parents.
Yeah, indeed. A difficult question I'm going to ask you now, and I think this question pertains to leadership, because when you are young, you always want to find somebody to look up to. You want to find somebody to aspire to be like. We find that a lot of our children here are living in households that don't even have parents, that they are in fact bringing up their brothers and sisters and their cousins. And I mean, it's a system that it's very, very sad. But at the same time, we look at the leadership that we have right now, whether it be we switch on Parliament and we see things happening, we see fighting happening in the media, and we see an example that isn't necessarily something that we would want our youth to follow in these footsteps. How do you feel? I mean, you're a leader, you're part of this government. I suppose, what is an explanation from your side in terms of leadership and the example we're setting?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think there are certain things that, do not deserve an explanation. There are certain things which we believe are unfortunate. And I think that, one of the things that has to be done and has to be done urgently is, at least at a political level, all political parties need to engage in terms of whether do we want to continue setting the example that, young people see on television. One of our, colleagues was saying to me that she thinks that if we allow what, for instance, is happening in Parliament continues, where young people are taught that conflict is resolved through violence, through insults, through shouting at each other, but also that, we misinterpret being radical. Radical these days means to be rude, to be disrespectful, not to take into consideration of your colleagues and of your compatriots. But I think that the bigger even challenge is that we have to inculcate and cultivate youth leadership at a local level, be it in politics, be it in business, be it in churches, everywhere. I think that we need that youth leadership. We're turning 21 as a country, as a democracy, as a free country. And when you turn 21, you tend to reflect on a lot of things that has happened, over the years, as is tradition. You're getting a key, as we say, So, and it is that time when we have to remind ourselves, particularly as the generation of young people, that we are here precisely because of the compromises, of the negotiations, of the discussions. People had to give away a lot, not only those who went to prison, not only those who went into exile, but even people who were in office, people who were the leadership of this country in 1994, had to give in that power, had to compromise through negotiations, through engagement. And I think that we need to remember that yes, there was blood spilled on the sidelines, but at the core of where we are today was the fact that there was negotiations, there was engagement. Let us have that dialogue. Let us remember that we can only resolve whatever conflicts that we have through dialogue. And I think we also need to extend that, into other countries in the continent. South Africa is taking leadership, in Sudan, in Burundi. We've contributed in resolving conflicts in many other parts of the country. We therefore cannot fail, to resolve issues around, service delivery, issues around unemployment and all of that in a way that will at the end help all South Africans.
All right, Buti Manamela, thank you very, very much for talking to us. Buti Manamela is the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, talking to us on this Youth Day. I know you making your way now to the stadium where the main event is going to be taking place, where the President is going to be addressing the youth. So enjoy the day and thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Leah.
An absolute pleasure. All right, let's take a break here on Morning Live. We'll see you after this. Stay tuned.